The public records requests that you made on behalf of Cappy, well, I guess employed by Cappy, were they legitimate?
Well, I guess that begs the question: how could someone make a public records request that's not legitimate?
Okay. Um, if the town of Gulfstream, they throw around, including in this RICO suit, the word frivolous. Um, and I guess maybe I can re-ask the same question.
The public records requests are frivolous?
Yeah, yeah. No, well, they're saying that here in their RICO.
Well,
but my question was
that's a ludicrous proposition. That's ludicrous. It's a constitutionally protected civil right in Florida. It became part of the Constitution of Florida by the largest supermajority of any constitutional amendment in the history of the state. It was I think it was 87% of the voters approved it. I understand that if I make a public records request, that somebody else may not think that that's important. And the good news is it doesn't matter. Why I want to, and this is an issue that has been litigated to death, why I am making a public, or anybody else is making a public records request, the motivation is completely irrelevant. Neither the custodian or the courts are permitted to consider the motivation of a requester, and it ought to be that way. Again, State v. Curry, or is it Curry v. State? State v. Curry, I think. Here's a guy who Curry was deliberately trying to harass his neighbor. He was being a jackass. In fact, had been charged with aggravated stalking. And the court said that it doesn't matter. It's a constitutionally protected right. How can you abuse a constitutionally protected right? I have made requests that I'm sure, I'm extremely confident, I've made lots of requests that the recipients of those requests thought were frivolous or nonsensical, or, if I walk into I haven't done this in a long time, but if I walk into I take it back. I did this just a couple of weeks ago. I went to a public agency, made a public records request for records that I really do want. What I was interested in is MBE utilization reports. There's a public policy in Florida created by statute that requires public agencies to attempt to do business with poor minority business enterprises, which include racial minorities, women, and disabled veterans. And I was interested to find out whether or not this particular public agency was, in fact, at least making an attempt to do business with disabled veterans. And it was very clear that they were playing games with me about where the records were stored. They're not here, they're someplace else. First they would say that the records were there, then they would say they were somewhere else, and then I'd ask for a different record. Well, they're here. Well, no, they're someplace else. And it was kind of silly. So finally, I asked the guy, so none of the agency records are here. Is that right? And this is the manager. Is that right? No, none of them are here. Well, what's that hanging on the wall behind you? Well, that's the certificate of occupancy for the building. Okay, well, I'd like to take a picture of that. That's clearly a public record. And by the way, you're not supposed to have it back where I can't get at it. It has to be out where I can see it, right? Because it's a violation of the fire code if you don't. And his response was, no, I'm not going to let you take a picture of that. Well, somebody might say that me asking for something that's hanging on the wall, it's so far away I can't even tell what it is, that's frivolous. It's not frivolous. I asked for it to make a point. And the point is, you're just not going to let me see any records, no matter how simple they are, no matter how easily and readily accessible they are. You're simply going to violate the Public Records Act. Now, somebody would say that's frivolous. That's not frivolous. It's not frivolous to me. It's really important. I want to make a point that you're jacking me around and you're jacking the public around in the exercise of our constitution protected civil rights. So the proposition that there's any such thing as an illegitimate or frivolous public records request is just, that demonstrates somebody's complete lack of understanding of the Florida Constitution and the Florida Public Records Act. Somebody that says that even uses that language, I seriously question their competency to practice law. So, somebody that says that the proposition that it's even possible to make a frivolous public records request would be like saying you're voting frivolously. Well, it's possible that somebody goes into a voting booth and closes their eyes and just starts punching away. Now to me, that seems like somebody squandering their right to participate in the political process. But is that frivolous? No. I mean, you have a right to do that. You have a right to go in there and punch every single thing. It's going to invalidate your vote, but if that's what you want to do, you have a right to do it. Or if you want to just, I don't know, whatever. That's like saying somebody goes to church frivolously. That's like saying somebody exercises their right to criticize the government frivolously. I don't even know how you would do that. That just seems like the wrong word. Somebody may do it in a carefree fashion, but to say that it's because frivolous carries with it, I think, at least for most people, some legal implication that somehow it's not valid or legitimate, and that's, again, how would it be possible for somebody to make a frivolous public records request?